In order to escape the island of Crete, Daedalus fashioned a pair of wings for himself and his son Icarus. He built them from metal feathers, wax, and a light leather frame, a creation delicate enough to fly, but strong enough to carry them away from their prison. Before they began their escape, Daedalus gave Icarus a clear warning not to fly too low, where the sea's damp air would weigh down the wings, and not to fly too high, where the sun's heat would melt the wax that held them together. Instead, he told them to take a path in between. With the wings secured, they rose into the open sky. Icarus followed closely behind his father, and together they glided across the sea. To the fishermen below, the sight of the two figures soaring overhead made them appear almost like gods. But the flight itself stirred something in Icarus. The higher they flew, the more he felt drawn towards the sun above. He climbed upward, beating his wings harder, rising past the safe path his father had set, chasing the warmth and brilliance in the sky. As he reached towards the light, the sun's heat softened the wax in his wings, the feathers loosened and drifted away, and the structure began to break apart. Unable to hold himself aloft, Icarus fell from the sky and plunged into the sea below. That is the tale of Icarus, and it's been retold for thousands of years. A story so simple that anyone can grasp it, yet powerful enough to echo far beyond the world of ancient myth. It speaks of curiosity, pride, and ambition pushed beyond its limits, themes that remain just as familiar today as they were in the old Greek poems. And as strange as it may seem, this ancient story appears everywhere in the games we play, not always as a direct reference, but as an idea, a pattern of characters who rise too fast, worlds that reach too far, and even through the mechanics that we interact with as players. So in this video, we'll explore how the Icarus archetype finds new life within the games we play, and see what happens when we find ourselves flying a little too close to the sun. We should start by looking at what it means for a character to resemble Icarus, the aspects of the myth that can be translated to so many characters we encounter across the games we play. At its core, this story can be broken into three components: ambition, hubris, and the fall. Ambition, in the Icarus sense, is the desire to rise beyond what ordinary mortals are meant for. It's that upward movement, that climb towards something greater. Hubris is the turning point, the moment where confidence becomes overconfidence and the character begins to believe that they are untouchable. And the fall is what happens when the limits finally push back, often as a consequence of their actions. And this is why the Icarus archetype translates so naturally into character storytelling, because characters in games don't need literal wings or a literal sun. What they need is a trajectory upward, a rise of some kind, and at the center of that climb is something they believe will complete them, their own version of Icarus's sun. This can take the form of power, identity, or even transcendence, all of which are instances where a character wants to move past what they once were. To be a character that mirrors Icarus, three things must happen. First, a rise, second, a moment of overconfidence, and finally, a fall, a collapse that redefines them permanently. Almost all Icarus characters begin the same way, with potential, something special that sits at the heart of who they are. A character's rise can manifest in countless different ways. It might be progress, recognition, growth, or a shift in how the character views their place in the world. What matters is that their trajectory moves upward. Then comes the pivot, the point of hubris, the moment where ambition overtakes caution. This is where they begin to believe that they can surpass the limits that everyone else accepts as immovable. They think that the warnings don't apply to them, that the future they see is a destiny, not a possibility. And once they cross that threshold, their story moves inevitably towards the fall. It may come in the form of madness, corruption, defeat, or death, but whatever shape it takes, it's always connected to the height they reached for. The tragedy of the Icarus character is that they could have survived if they had stopped rising. Their flaw does not always reside in what they wanted. Instead, it often comes from wanting it too much. Not every ambitious character is a representation of Icarus, as ambition alone is not the problem. What defines an Icarus character is how that ambition transforms them. It begins when the pursuit becomes their identity. Their goal starts as something they desire, but eventually becomes who they are. Without ascent, they feel empty. They begin to treat progress as survival. To someone on this path, caution can feel like a threat, one that could act as an obstacle to their future. Then comes the most dangerous shift. They begin to seek something beyond their capabilities. It could be godhood, perfection, invincibility, or enlightenment, but the shape of it doesn't matter. What matters is that they stop seeing themselves as bound to the restrictions in place. Reality becomes irrelevant. They live by a new set of rules, ones they've crafted themselves. Few characters embody this archetype as clearly or as tragically as Sephiroth, the central antagonist of Final Fantasy VII. For those unfamiliar with him, Sephiroth begins the story as a hero, a legend. Fighters admire him, civilians revere him, even his peers see him as something extraordinary. He is disciplined, composed, and impossibly skilled. His reputation alone is mythic. This is important. Before his fall, Sephiroth is exactly the kind of figure the world loves to elevate. He has the wings that allow his ascent, and I'm not talking about his literal wings, I'm referring to his superhuman strength, his combat training, and his mysterious origin. But every Icarus character eventually reaches the point where a single action shifts their entire perspective. For Sephiroth, that action is the discovery of the truth behind his creation. He learns about Genova, the alien organism whose cells were used in the experiments that produced him. He reads about the scientists who manipulated his birth, and he realizes that his entire life, every achievement and every experience has been tainted by this newfound knowledge. For many characters, this would be a moment of reflection, a crisis to work through, and for a while, that's exactly how Sephiroth reacts, but eventually it evolves into something different. It becomes a spark that ignites the belief that he is not human at all, but something superior. From here, the rise accelerates. He becomes obsessed with transcendence, with the idea that he was meant to surpass humanity, that he alone is entitled to reshape the fate of the world. He begins to see the planet as fuel for his ascension. The people around him become obstacles or pawns. His hubris reaches the point where he believes that only he understands the truth, that only he deserves control, and nothing, not mortality, not the planet, not fate itself, can stop his destiny. The fall that follows is one that is psychological well before it becomes physical. Sephiroth loses his sanity under the weight of his own self-image. His mind fractures, his identity dissolves, and he sheds his humanity like a snake sheds its skin. The transformation, the final form he takes, is the equivalent of Icarus's wings melting. Sephiroth's story mirrors the myth of Icarus beat for beat, except instead of flying towards the sun, he flies towards power and burns the same. To understand why the Icarus archetype appears so frequently, we also need to look inward at the psychology that drives these characters, because the fall isn't just about reaching too far, it's about what happens when internal wounds collide with external opportunities. Many Icarus characters begin with the same feeling. They believe that who they are is not enough. Another root of the Icarus archetype is identity, specifically the belief that becoming more will fix what's broken inside. I find that Adam from Nier Automata fits this idea perfectly. Adam is a machine and is one of the main antagonists throughout the story. He doesn't seek strength or dominance as Sephiroth did. His sun is emotion, the core of what he believes makes humans whole. And as a result of chasing it, he becomes obsessed. His ascent is both intellectual and spiritual, and his fall is a consequence of this obsession. When you encounter him in the copied city, he disconnects himself from the machine network, the very thing that sustains him and makes him immortal. He chooses to make himself vulnerable because he wants to understand what it means to be alive, and it was this decision that led to his fall. It's a beautiful and tragic echo of Icarus, one that is almost the opposite of many other characters. Adam fell because he chased humanity itself, not because he tried to ascend beyond it. Perhaps the most overlooked psychological trigger is stagnation. For some characters, not rising, not ascending, feels like dying. Their identity becomes so intertwined with progress that the idea of stopping, even momentarily, terrifies them. This is where another Adam comes into conversation. Atom Smasher is yet another villainous figure who resides in Night City, the primary location in Cyberpunk 2077. He was once a human, just like everyone else, but over time he chose to replace nearly every part of his body with chrome. He saw weakness everywhere, in his own flesh, in the pain he experienced, and in the fear he felt. To him, humanity wasn't just something to transcend, it was something to tear out and discard. His sun was invulnerability, the fantasy of becoming untouchable, and he flew towards it relentlessly. But in achieving that invulnerability, he became blinded. He saw himself as unbeatable. He underestimates the player not only because he's overconfident, but because his humanity had been reduced to a faint echo, melting away just like the wax holding Icarus's wings together. There is a reason developers across genres and decades keep returning to the Icarus archetype. It's one of the most natural narrative structures available in interactive storytelling. It's emotionally powerful, morally resonant, and structurally aligned with how video games are built. The tale of Icarus is tragic from the start. We know the character is rising too quickly and will often see the warning signs long before they do. This dramatic irony creates an immediate emotional investment. As players, we can find ourselves rooting for the character while at the same time fearing the inevitable. It's the same tension I felt when I first read the tale of Icarus, a sense that fate is closing in, even if Icarus himself couldn't see it. Most games naturally follow an upward curve. The player grows stronger, the stakes increase, challenges escalate, and the world responds. Many of these Icarus characters will rise alongside the player. Their ascent mirrors the gameplay curve, making their fall feel earned rather than abrupt. This makes them powerful narrative counterparts. As the player rises with control and awareness, the Icarus character rises recklessly and blindly. But not every character who climbs towards the sun is destined to fall, at least permanently. For example, I want to look at the popular roguelike Hades. The main character, Zagreus, reaches for a near impossible goal, to defeat his father Hades. He dies time and time again, but every time he falls, he gets closer to his own sun. This can also be seen in Ghost of Tsushima through the main character, Jin Sakai. His fall can be tied to when he loses the approval of his uncle, when it's discovered that Jin has been straying from the samurai code of honor. But unlike the traditional Icarus character, this fall is not his end. He lives on to find and create value in other ways. These characters succeed because they maintain their self-awareness and a willingness to respect certain limits. Their wings don't melt because they don't see themselves as invincible. They rise, but they rise carefully. The difference doesn't lie in the height they reach, but in how they handle the heat of the sun. When looking at the characters we encounter, we can use the Icarus archetype as a lens to help understand them better. Every character who rises towards their sun reveals something about the human need to reach beyond ourselves, and every fall reminds us the dangers that come with each ascent, because whether their wings are made of wax, steel, feathers, or magic, their sun will always burn the same. Interestingly enough, the myth of Icarus is not only tied to the characters we encounter. In fact, the most powerful versions of this story are often not about individuals at all. They're about the worlds they reside in, where we, the player, explore. Fallen civilizations, lost cultures, locations that hide a past that has so much to tell. An Icarus world is a place that was once shaped by ambition, a world where an ideal became an identity, and where the land itself reflects the fall of a civilization that reached higher than it ever should have. And just like the myth, these worlds share one truth. The higher they climb, the more fragile they become. By the time we arrive as players, their wings are already gone, melted, scattered, and long forgotten. From Software is a studio known for crafting worlds that feel heavy with history. Every region, ruin, and creature seems to hold a story that is waiting to be discovered, a past you're constantly trying to piece together. Across their games, the settings may change, but they all share the same dark undercurrent, a sense that something big must have happened before you arrived, and now you're walking through the aftermath. And what better way to build a tragic world than to echo the tale of a boy who soared too high, only to collapse under the weight of his own ambition. In Elden Ring, the lands between are one of the clearest examples of one of these worlds. These lands were once ruled by the Golden Order under the guidance of Queen Marika. Before you, the Tarnished, step foot into the story, the world fractures in an event known as the Shattering. This is the moment when the wings broke, when the Golden Order collapsed under its own weight. Marika's rebellion against the greater will was an act of defiance, the breaking point of a system that had risen too far above the foundations it was built on. When she shattered the Elden Ring, she broke the structure that held the entire civilization together. The Elden Ring was split into fragments, and the lands between erupted in conflict. Each demigod fought to claim a piece of this broken power, each of them convinced they had the right or destiny to restore the world in their own image. As the Tarnished, we explore a land scarred by this struggle, a place where every ruin, battlefield, and wandering creature carries the imprint of a world that reached too high. But again, we see these remnants most clearly in the demigods themselves. They are the last survivors of a divine lineage trying to rebuild the wings that once allowed the Golden Order to soar. If we look at the conflict between Radahn and Malenia, the consequences become unmistakable. Radahn, a master of gravity and a warrior who once held back the very stars. And Malenia, the blade of Miquella, an unmatched duelist and the goddess of rot. Two demigods at the peak of their power, two individuals whose ambitions collided with catastrophic results. Their clash transforms Caelid into a rotting wasteland, a literal scar carved into the world through this conflict. A reminder that even in their attempts to reclaim the past, their power only drives the world deeper into ruin, leaving us to traverse its remains. Now, I want to shift the lens to another one of From Software's worlds, that being the city of Yharnam. Bloodborne presents a different expression of the Icarus world, one that's driven by the pursuit of knowledge. Yharnam, the city at the heart of Bloodborne's story, was once renowned for its miraculous healing blood. Citizens believed it could cure any disease by unlocking something extraordinary within the human body. But that miracle came from the remains of the Great Ones, eldritch cosmic beings that were far beyond human understanding. This discovery was the city's wings, the spark of its rise, the idea that humanity could climb beyond its limits using this alien knowledge. Scholars at Bergenworth studied the Great Ones, convinced they had found the key to mankind's next evolution. This is what led to the discovery of the blood itself, a substance so powerful it defied science, logic, and reality itself. But instead of approaching these findings with caution, these scholars, and eventually the healing church, began to consume the blood rashly. They distribute it, experiment with it, and build cathedrals to honor it. This is Yharnam's moment of hubris. The city believes divinity is something you can simply consume. But the Great Ones are not beings humans can emulate. Their biology is simply incompatible, and their insight is too vast for a human mind to hold. And so, the blood, the very tool Yharnam used to ascend, is what leads to its downfall. Citizens transform into beasts, scholars lose themselves to madness, and the line between dream and waking begins to dissolve. This is the fall, where this once great city slowly unravels into a nightmare, making Yharnam the home of a civilization that was melted by a sun it could never understand. When you explore a world shaped by ambition, the land itself becomes a storyteller, speaking directly through the remnants it leaves behind. Sometimes these details are only added to create a general atmosphere, but more often than not, they are there to reflect a tragic past. And if you look closely, you can usually decipher what caused these worlds to rise and what led to the state you now see them in. Having impossibly large and grand architecture is almost a staple in any world that is broken. It's often the simplest way to convey that a civilization was once great. And these buildings are almost always complemented with something much smaller: makeshift camps, broken carts, tiny settlements trying to survive in the shadow of what came before. Just by comparing these spaces, we instantly feel the distance between past ambition and present reality. We're left imagining how beautiful these worlds must have been before they collapsed. But the signs of rising ambition aren't limited to architecture, they appear in anything a past civilization left behind. Giant statues, forgotten machinery, strange technology, anything that signifies the heights a civilization reached before its fall. And then there are the cultural remnants. They can be books, propaganda, shrines, or any object that teaches the player something about an extinct population, something that helps the player understand the mindset of those who came before, which can often tell you where it all went wrong. But it's not enough to just look at what a civilization accomplished. We also have to look at how its legacy is decaying. Because a fall is never frozen in time. These worlds continue to shift long after their people are gone. Sometimes that decay takes the form of rot, like Caelid's Scarlet Wasteland. Other times, nature slowly reclaims what it originally lost. And in some cases, new civilizations rise from the ruins, utilizing the past remnants in whatever ways they can. If you pay attention to how these environments changed over time, you can often see how harsh a civilization's collapse really was. So far, all of these details have been passive, things you noticed as you act as an archaeologist, uncovering the past one layer at a time. But in terms of having an impact on your playthrough, these aspects are not too noticeable, at least when compared to what these civilizations create, often unintentionally. Within gaming, it's an incredibly popular decision to have the enemies and creatures you encounter be the direct result of a creation or experiment that was made by a past civilization. When you look at it narratively, it makes sense. It's an easy way to add a mysterious backstory and gives a logical reason as to why these enemies exist. It pairs extremely well with the discovery element of playing a game, as now even the enemies themselves are intertwined into the story itself. I find these creations to be by far the most effective way to learn how a civilization fell, as they are actively in your face trying to kill you instead of just being another ruin or tattered page. It's also important to recognize a key difference between the Icarus character and the Icarus world. With characters, we watch the entire myth play out, starting with the rise and ending with the fall. But with worlds, we arrive too late. The tragedy has already happened. The wings have already melted. We don't get the chance to try to prevent what's to come. We can only walk through the remnants of what's left. The remnants that failed to warn the people who built them but succeeded in warning us, the wanderers who come after, telling us what heights should remain out of reach. Now for the final, and to me, the most interesting topic in this video, how we, the player, can be seen reflecting the tale of Icarus. It's surprisingly common for games to feed our ambition directly through their mechanics. If you've ever played one of From Software's titles, you know exactly what I mean. You see a boss's health bar getting dangerously low, your heart rate increases, and the cautious, disciplined player you were a moment ago disappears. And then you die. The game didn't trick you, the opening was always the same. What changed was you. You believed victory was within reach. You felt the heat of the sun on your wings, and so you reached just a bit too far. Some players live for that feeling where you are fighting on the razor's edge, only one mistake away from being defeated. Sometimes it comes from playing underleveled, but more often it appears in the form of glass cannon builds. These are the high-risk, high-reward playstyles that let you deal absurd damage at the cost of being incredibly fragile. From a practical standpoint, most players would agree this isn't optimal. A more balanced build would be more efficient, both safer and smarter. But it isn't about practicality, it's about the thrill of knowing your run could end at any moment, that your power and your vulnerability rise together. And many games push this idea even further with berserker modes, skills that drain your health or defense in exchange for overwhelming force. You sacrifice stability for strength, you burn the candle faster just to make it shine a little brighter. Games will also express the journey of Icarus through their level design. Developers love to use vertical structures because their height naturally creates tension. The higher you climb, the more dangerous it gets. In Breath of the Wild, you need to climb to the top of Hyrule Castle in order to challenge Ganon. In Persona 3, you climb through Tartarus, and in the Shadow of the Erd Tree, you need to climb through Anir Elim in order to defeat Consort Radahn. In all of these cases, the ground represents safety. It's where your checkpoints are, it's where you can breathe. But as you climb, the stakes rise, your margin of error narrows, one slip, one mistake, and you fall. just like Icarus. Earlier, I talked about the protagonist from the game Hades as an example for an Icarus character, but roguelikes as a genre are also a perfect translation of the myth. The goal of most games is to beat the final boss, that is, the sun you are trying to reach as the player. Roguelikes dangle this goal right in front of you from the very start. You begin the run the same way every time, and each time you die, you are right back to where you started, only a little stronger. So fundamentally, the gameplay loop mirrors the Icarus archetype, but this genre of games is also the home to most, if not all, of the gameplay mechanics I mentioned earlier. You're often offered the choice to pick cursed items that come with strong benefits, but also huge risks. You can be given shortcuts that lead you to a boss, but require you to skip some potential upgrades. Or you can build your character as a glass cannon, storming through all the levels with ease, only to fall to a stray projectile. It's these mechanics paired with this gameplay loop that constantly ask the player, how much are you willing to risk? How close are you willing to fly? And sooner or later, you'll fall victim to your own confidence. And then there's speedrunning, arguably the closest gaming has ever come to recreating the myth of Icarus directly. Speedrunners make a sport out of breaking the limits developers build into their games. They glitch through walls, manipulate physics, and skip bosses, all to shave fractions of a second off their time. To break a world record, you need confidence that borders on arrogance. You must attempt things the game was never meant to handle. You must master every frame of every movement. And unlike roguelikes, the challenge only gets harder. If you beat your record, you're instantly given a new sun to chase, a new time you need to surpass. You will need to be faster, cut more corners, and take even more risks. Speedrunning is the equivalent of flying directly upward at full speed. As a player, you're ignoring the limits placed on you, just like Icarus ignored the limits that his father gave him. Throughout this chapter, one theme has come up again and again: dying. That's the biggest difference between the ancient myth and the world of games. When Icarus plunged into the sea, that was it. His story ended. But when we fall, when our wings melt, we respawn. No matter how high we climb, no matter how badly we fall, we get another chance. Games provide us with a safe place to test ambition, to experiment with risk without losing anything real. The myth of Icarus is about a fundamental part of human nature, the desire to reach for something more. And games let us experience that feeling over and over again. They let us feel powerful, they let us push our limits, they let us crash, learn, and try again. Where else can you soar higher than you should, fall further than you'd ever expect, and still stand up the moment your wings crumble away? Thank you to all of you who stayed until the end. This video was something I had in the back of my mind for a while, but it always just seemed a bit too ambitious until I finally had a moment of confidence and committed. It started as just a couple of connections I made to my favorite myth while I played different games, but it led to an endless rabbit hole of research, countless drafts, and many late nights editing, all while I was in the midst of finals at college. I'm not sure how this video will perform. I'm a small channel and am only recently refining the type of content I'll produce. But I have to say, I'm pretty proud of myself for this one, as I think it was a video that really pushed my passion and creativity towards their limits, which is something I hope to achieve with every upload I make. So even if this video isn't enough for YouTube to push beyond my channel's small circle, I'll just keep producing until it has no choice but to do just that. And so if you like the content and want to see more, consider liking and subscribing, as I have a lot to share. With that, thank you all for watching, and until next time.